everyone. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Autumn here with Awakening the Artist and the first of this month's Creative Care for Caregivers event. I'm really excited to be offering these events online and next month in person because there is not a lot of resources out there for caregivers such as myself. And if you see the lack in the neurodiverse community for our kids and our loved ones, just imagine that lack being consistent with caregivers. And I feel like I can help bridge that gap using one of my passions, which is art and symbolism. And so today we're going to be creating an intention and using an affirmation and creating art to establish more balance in our lives. Balance is something that is very near and dear to my heart. I'm a Libra, and yet I often find myself out of balance, either doing too much for one family member and not enough for myself, or out of bitterness and resentment, pulling in and doing for myself and wanting to close off others. Now, I think that's human tendency, and it's that pendulum, right? And that scale. So we're finding balance, and we're going to be creating a scale image today. You will need a regular pencil, a straight edge, colored pencils, and a black Sharpie if you want to do some outlining. I'm going to do some outlining live because I noticed last time it was very hard to see my work with this lighting. So I want to make sure everyone can see exactly what I'm creating. I will be tipping the camera and talking, so join in with me. Grab your supplies, or you can just enjoy this meditation, this time watching, taking it in, and create at another time. All right, so let me go ahead and tip and get started here. I've got my paper, and I'm just gonna eye up the center of my paper, and I'm gonna make a 5-point star. This is gonna represent me. And many of you guys learned that little technique with the triangles when you were a kid. So we're just going to go ahead and make a star in the center. It's not going to be perfect. It's just going to be a star image. And then go ahead and erase the lines on the interior. And I'm going to go ahead and trace this so you guys can actually see it. This is me, and we're using a star because you are a rock star as a caregiver. So own it. Oh, I forgot. I wanted us to write our affirmation at the top before we begin. So we got the star. That's fine. Let's write the affirmation. I am worthy of a balanced, holistic, and fulfilling life. This is our intention. Exclamation point. And I have to remove a cat because she's going to cause trouble. But here's trouble. Say hi, Avina. The other cats can handle me doing this, but not Avina. Okay, so the affirmation at the top I've written is, I am worthy of a balanced, holistic, and fulfilling life. And we have our star in the center. Go ahead and find your yellow colored pencil and shade that star in yellow. So as we do this, we really are celebrating ourselves, giving yourself a star for all you do accomplish and all the ways that you love your family and your loved ones. You know, we don't always hear thank yous, I love yous, you're doing a great job. Sometimes we have to give that to ourselves. And if you learn that skill of affirming yourself, You don't need it from other people. It's great when it happens, but you're not relying on it, and there's a lot of freedom in that dynamic. Okay, got my star. Now with my straight edge, I can kind of see coming off to the right a line that would actually be very straight with this star. I do want to create, my other one's not going to be as straight, and that's okay. So this line is going to go upward about 4 inches and then downward about 4 inches. So I have one line so far going through, and then we're going to do it the other way. Oh, I actually do have a straight line. Okay, I was worried you might not be completely straight with your keep the line straight, but if your star's a little crooked, that's okay. All right, so you should have a star with 2 lines proceeding out, and I'm going to give these just a little bit of a texture, depth, or whatever, width. So I'm just going to round it almost like a balancing pole, and it can go right behind the star. Okay, so there's an example of the first one. And it's okay if it's not, you know, extremely straight. We're imagining here that these are straight. So if you want to outline yours, you can, or just wait. All right, and then I might go ahead and erase these pencil marks that are inside. So you should have an image that looks like this. All right. So first thing we are going to do is we're going to imagine that the left side is how we take care of ourselves, and the right side is how we are taking care of our loved one. And I want you to draw, when the balance is tipped, I want you to draw like a shape, just kind of squiggle it all around. Looks like maybe like a little pile of mud or putty on the end. And of course, if it's this way, it's going to be bigger at the bottom and smaller at the top. And then you're going to do the opposite for the opposite way. So the bigger one is down here, and your smaller blob at the top. These aren't in any particular shape, just kind of curvy lines. Imagine a little lump of dough, maybe. Okay. So the next step should look like this, where you have the bottom heavier lumps and the top lighter lumps, okay? What these are representing is the time, the attention, the mindsets that support ourselves, and then the time, attention, and mindset that support our loved ones. And we'll notice sometimes if we're doing something for ourselves, it may mean we're doing less for our loved one. If we're doing something for our loved one, it may mean we're doing less for ourselves, right? This is a dynamic that is always moving. So I do want you to create some movement lines underneath your beams or poles to indicate that they are moving, they are in flux. Okay, so I just drew a little bit of lines there. Now for the segments, we're just going to be creating random shapes that fit inside the segments, and they're just going to represent a few of the things that I find we are doing for ourselves or our loved ones. Okay, so for ourselves, let's see, let's go to the bigger area. So start on the bottom left. Okay, for ourselves, I'm going to use a circle. You could use any shape you want here. Okay, I'm just going to make a circle in here. This is when I am exercising, moving my body, taking walks. Things that really are nourishing, the movements that are nourishing for me. So for me, I'm going to color that in pink. You can be creative with your coloring, or just a solid color is fine too. Maybe I'm going to put a little shading of pink and red. Okay, so that's exercise for me. I also like to do this morning time where I reflect on some cards and really contemplate what they mean. I'm going to use a triangle for that. Just above it, I'm going to kind of imagine these are also balancing shapes. So you can see, just kind of put your shapes in there, balance. For me, this is really a heart opening time, so I'm going to use green. And maybe I'm going to do the top and the bottom. A design of horizontal, and then I'm going to do some vertical lines in there. So you can just play around and with your colored pencils. They're very fun to shade. Just have fun with that. All right, now I'm going to make a bigger one. I have really shifted my diet the last few months, actually, to find what really works for my body. I'm going to make a giant square that represents the time I take in the kitchen, time I take prepping, preparing, learning. I even have a meeting I attend to help with my diet changes. So I'm going to represent this with, let's see, I'm going to put spirals in here because I feel like it's been a learning curve and a growth journey for me to find a way that really supports my body nutritionally. I think as caregivers, sometimes that's one piece we forget. If you're eating convenience food just to get by, you will definitely feel it and you won't have the energy at all. So this represents my diet choices and how I fuel my body. I also love connecting with my fiance and with friends. I am going to draw a huge heart here. And I'm going to put it with many shades because there's not just one person or one way I connect. So let's shade a little bit with that color and some blue in here. My fiance's favorite color is red, so let's include some red. We're watching movies or doing projects at our new house together, laughing. All that stuff is very, very nourishing for me. And some green. I have this collection of colored pencils that is just huge. I have more than I know what to do with. So I'm going to sort through and find that I'm keeping out some of the ones that I enjoy. So here's a silver. You know, spending time with my daughter. She's been really into playing Yahtzee. So that has been a nourishing time for me. And soon I'm teaching her how to drive. So hopefully that will be a nourishing time. That might be more of the giving area, but that's okay. All right, so there's my colorful heart representing connection time with my loved ones. I'll probably make one more shape in here. My animals, oh my goodness, I love snuggling them. I wonder if I can make a paw print. Let's see, a circle with 3 circles. There we go, and shade that. Caring for my animals, giving them all that attention. It's definitely something I enjoy. So you're representing with these shapes everything you enjoy, the things that you feel like, when I get a chance to do that, it brings me balance. Maybe it is reading a good book. Maybe it is sitting down and doing some art like this. Maybe it's connecting with a friend over the phone. Whatever might be nourishing for you, I want you to include there. And then we're going to switch gears to the bigger side for your loved one. So this is the stuff that you're doing with your loved one. Not that you don't enjoy it, but it is giving, it is extending of yourself. It is the times that are a little bit more challenging, that require you to have good energy to provide. Okay? So for my son, I'm gonna use a square. Meal preparation. He's not eating exactly like me. I'll make it a little smaller. But he has his way of enjoying foods and textures and things that I accommodate. And that takes time in the kitchen. So I'm going to also put those little swirls, because similar, I think we've learned over the time what works well for his body, what doesn't, what he reacts to. So I'm going to start with that, with food time and food prep. Definitely takes time. I'm going to make a big Z, because my son doesn't always get the best sleep. And because I do supervise and I don't want to just leave him to his own devices, that means that I might not get the best sleep if he's not sleeping well. So I'm going to put a big Z here. You could do shapes, or you could do letters like this to play around. That represents the energy it takes sometimes. I could even make this with like a moon and stars. Let's put a moon in it. So just find your creativity and how you could represent something through shapes. We'll put a few little white stars here. I know many people share this struggle, and there's not an easy solution. Sometimes we know things that have caused the sleeping issues, and sometimes we just don't. And you can't spend a bunch of mental energy trying to figure it out, or you just don't even have, you're like, that's the last energy you have. So, yep, it is one of those things we are learning with neurodivergence, diversity, and how to help our loved ones. So there's my Z. Another thing, I read to my son. He takes a lot in auditorily, so I could actually maybe draw another square to represent a book. Can make it three-dimensional here very simply, like a little rectangle. So I am taking that time to read to him throughout the day in our lessons, and also before bed. And let's see, I don't want to put too much detail, so I'm just going to do some diagonal lines on this book of different colors. You could get as detailed as you want, or keep these shapes kind of just symbolic. We'll do a circle also to represent exercise, movement, stretching. You know, on his own, my son won't do those things, so it takes initiation on my part to do that with him. And we're especially missing the warm weather, because we go out and take walks when it is nice out. So I'm using some greens here to represent exercise and movement, maybe because we do a lot of it in nature. Now it looks like a wheel because I added a center. But whatever you want, those things. And then my son has some online classes and clubs that we're attending, so it just takes prep time. I'm going to use a heart for that, because that's like his connecting time. But it takes me, you know, making sure our schedule is open at that time, that I'm home, that I'm not doing anything else, that I'm very focused, that I've, you know, we've eaten something beforehand, that we're ready, that the cats are locked away, right? All those little preparation things can take a little time. So, but it's been really cool to see my son interact more in these clubs and these classes, so I'm very motivated to help him in this way. And then we're creating art and an art workshop together, so that might be included. I'm going to put one more section on here to represent that. That takes considerable time too, because I'm videotaping lessons and demonstrations, editing, uploading to my website. So all those things, they're great things, but they require energy. All right, so I've got my heart here. And maybe I could stick in a paintbrush to represent the art we do together. Let's find a place. So if you want, you know, draw the actual items, or you can just draw the shapes or letters that represent it. This is kind of cool because I've got the footprint in mine, and then for Liam's I have the Z and a paintbrush. So a little bit of each. Okay, so these represent those activities that are really nourishing for ourselves, for our loved one, that do require energy. So now we're going to go to the top area, and I think for this one we're going to represent the way we're feeling when we're not balanced, when we're over giving, or how we might perceive our child is feeling if we're not able to meet their needs. So I'm going to just represent this. I think for me, there's two things I feel. There's guilt, which can be really strong and can maybe feel like gray, like a gray blob. Let's do that. That I'm not giving my son. I'm going to make like gray specks or clouds. And then there's sadness or sorrow that life is this challenging. So I'm going to draw little teardrops. And this little section represents how we feel when we are perhaps over giving and not receiving all we need. So and that's actually for the child first. So if I feel like I'm not able to give him enough, I'm feeling guilt and sadness. Now, on the flip side, how am I feeling if I'm getting, I think I might have done that. Put that on the wrong one. No, that's right. So if I'm, that actually might, let's see. Well, whether it's on the right one or not, it'll work out in the end. The other one is, how do I feel if I'm not receiving enough? If I'm neglecting myself. So I have anger. I feel a lot of anger and resentment. I'm going to represent that just with like red lightning bolts. I don't know. Usually lightning bolts aren't red, but maybe I'm thinking of Inside Out. Like there's an anger and a resentment that I don't have the time, that I don't matter. So I'm going to represent that with the red lightning bolts. And then there's also just this a helplessness that can come when you feel like you can't figure it out, that you can't on your own balance the equation. So helplessness might be represented best with, let's see, I'm going to use little like clouds of blue that just kind of hang over your head and you can't escape them. This is kind of maybe feeling like a victim, feeling like you don't have choices or power, that you're stuck. Okay, so we should have these 4 areas represented now. This is the reality that we often experience, balance and imbalance, and the emotions that come with them. Now I want you to take your straight edge, and we're going to make through the star a line about the same length as the other two. And for this line, I want it to be thick colored in black. And do that on both sides, as straight as you can. Doesn't have to be perfect, of course. And we're just gonna honor that this is our intention, that we want the balance between the both. And I want you to go ahead and make a heart and write your name in it on your side. So I'm going to put Autumn on my side, and I'm going to make one and put your loved one, if there's one or more. See if you can fit them all. I'm going to put Liam on the other side. So this is going to be the final step here. We're making a balanced line with the intention that our love does create that balance, that holistic and that fulfilling life together through the ebbs and the flows. So I'm going to use just the color that I know my son likes, teal, and color in his heart. And then I'm very much into purples, so I will find that purple and color in mine. Okay, this is our creating balance craft. I want to just go over it a little bit. The star in the center represents us because we are rock stars as caregivers. And then we're going to go ahead and create two lines, one that is imbalanced to the left, one that is imbalanced to the right. And we put our little shapes, blobs of putty on top of that. And then inside, we filled the bottom ones with the nourishing activities that do satisfy us, that we do want to incorporate in our lives. And then we put our feeling when they're imbalanced, when we're not receiving that as much. And so I had guilt and sadness, and then I have anger and helplessness on this one. And then we're creating the intention with the thicker black line of balance, and taking hearts to represent you and your loved one. All right, I hope you enjoyed this craft. This replay will stay on this page indefinitely. Anytime you do this or enjoy it, just give me some feedback. Let me know if you liked it, if it helped you, if it helped you shift some of the energy that you've been feeling around caregiving. And also, I always like feedback of what other caregiving struggles would you like me to do art and help kind of bridge the energy with. So you have my permission to share away, and I thank you so much for being here today.